joining us now from Capitol Hill, member of the Select Committee on Intelligence and the Armed Services Committee, Republican Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas. Senator, good morning. Good to see you. Last night as well, Donald Trump tweeting about the Intelligence Committee, putting that in quotes. He's been very critical of our intelligence services. How do you feel Donald Trump has handled this allegation of Russian hacking?
Well, I think it's reasonable for us to wait to see what comes out in the report in the next couple of days. President Obama ordered that report last month. The intelligence agencies have been working very diligently to complete it. They'll report to President Obama and then Donald Trump and then the intelligence committees on Capitol Hill, and we can examine their conclusions. I don't see much need to jump to conclusions before that, though, until we see what their conclusions are, and then in the intelligence committees, the sources and methods they use to gather the evidence to support those conclusions.
Do you think it's dangerous at all for Donald Trump to be attacking the intelligence community before he knows what they're going to say? Or
well,
at all?
I have a lot more faith in our intelligence officers serving around the world, the very smart and experienced analysts that we have here in the nation's capital than I do in people like Julian Assange. I can tell you that much. Look, I don't dispute the intelligence community's assessment from October 7th that Russia or Russian associates were behind the attack on the DNC. I simply think that that's to be expected from Russia. That's what they do. And one reason they felt emboldened that they could do that for the last 8 years is because Barack Obama has not just been weak on Russia, but he's even tried to stop people like me and other members of Congress from drawing a firmer line on them. That's what we need to do with Russia. We need to draw a firmer line. We need to impose costs when they step over the line, doing things like hacking into the DNC.
Well, Senator, but does it concern you at all that the president-elect of the United States of America, to be president in 17 days, 16 days, continually and has continuously demeaned the intelligence gathering and thus the people who do this dangerous work around the world? Does it concern you at all?
Well, I think intelligence officers are like military personnel. They just don't work in public. They don't wear uniforms when they go through airports, and therefore they don't get as much of the credit and respect and honor that they deserve. I would encourage the president-elect to listen with an open mind, but also with a probing mind. It's right to probe our intelligence agencies as civilian elected leaders of our government. But also, I mean, there are real questions, too, about why there have been so many leaks over the last 7 or 8 weeks from the administration about the motivations or the intentions of Vladimir Putin or other foreign leaders. That's not something that came out in that October 7th published and official assessment. That's something that our intelligence agencies and the administration ought not be doing, is leaking intelligence for political or purposes, or putting it in the media without any kind of official basis.
So Senator Elise Jordan earlier this morning talked about concern in the intel community about some of the evidence, but also concern that if this was such a devastating hack, then why, many are asking, didn't this administration do more earlier? I actually read a Politico article saying that you had pressed them, I guess, in the spring to take a far more aggressive stand against Russia on this issue. Can you tell us about that?
Well, I would say first, the hack of the DNC is something that Russia ought not to have done, and they ought to pay a price for it. But if you want to make a list of the crimes and transgressions that Russia has committed against U.S. interests in the last decade, that would be pretty far down the list. It's true that I and many others on Capitol Hill have tried to push the administration to take a firmer line. Just a couple examples of that. In the intelligence bill last year, I promoted a measure that would have created an interagency working group at the highest level to counteract Russian covert operations and influence campaigns and propaganda. I was told that that already existed and it would be duplicative, and they threatened a veto over it. Well, it must not be working well. Second, Russian diplomats, by which I mean mostly Russian spies, are not allowed to travel a certain distance outside their embassy or consulate. I proposed measures in the intelligence bill that would force the administration to enforce existing rules on those Russian spies. I got a call just a couple weeks ago, after the election, after the announcement of the hacking, asking me to pull that bill and threatening to veto the legislation if it wasn't included in the legislation. That's just one small example of what I mean when I say that President Obama hasn't just been weak on Russia, he's actively blocked measures to take a firmer line on Russia.
Why?
I think from the very beginning, he thought that he was going to be able to reset relationships with Russia and that he was going to be able to use Russia to achieve other goals, like reaching the nuclear deal in Iran, or maybe having some kind of peace settlement in Syria. I think we've seen, though, the number of times that Russia has played loosey to Charlie Brown, President Obama trying to kick the football, that's simply not the case. That's not the way Vladimir Putin views our relationship. And the president now regrets that. I bet he regrets making fun of Mitt Romney for saying that Russia was our #1 geopolitical adversary, or telling the president of Russia that he needed more flexibility until to wait till after the election. I just wish that he'd come to this recognition 8 years ago.
Senator, quickly on health care, how many Arkansans have gotten health insurance under the Affordable Care Act, and what's your message to them if they're concerned that Republicans are going to change it, they're going to lose their coverage?
Well, we don't want anyone to lose their coverage. When we replace Obamacare, we want to fix the problems that Obamacare made worse from the pre-existing system. Now, Arkansas has something of a unique system under Obamacare. Our state government didn't just expand Medicaid like most states. It used that money to help people buy private insurance. That may be something like we look at when we replace Obamacare. Whether it's a tax deduction or a tax credit, we provide every American with the ability to go out and find affordable health insurance that fits their needs, not the needs that are dictated by politicians in Washington.
All right, Tom Cotton, thank you so much for being with us. By the way, you probably were late getting to work. You forgot to shave this morning.
I grew my winter beard, and I've got the one force that mostly causes men to shave their beards, their wives at home. It's working in the opposite direction. My wife likes my beard, so I'm going to keep it for a while. She does.
Little known fact, she must be a fish fan as well. Right? PH-ISH. All right, thank you so much, Senator. Great talking to you.